These are moments where I make sure to unplug and reset so I can continue to wear many hats. And also, in terms of burnout, remember, one of the hats you have to wear is your self-care hat, especially as an artist, so that you can reset, you can be grounded. An artist's most powerful performance is a grounded one that's rooted in reality.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Behind the Spotlight. I'm your host, Kelly Wright, and today our guest, Walid Chaya, is here and he will inform us and let the world know how he helps people turn their pain into purpose. Walid, welcome.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to get straight to business. Walid, you've worn so many hats: actor, director, writer, and coach. At what point did you recognize that the creative life can also bring burnout?
Absolutely. So, it's funny about wearing many hats. I want to start at the beginning when I first started to realize that I'm multifaceted and I like to do many things. I was in college and in an acting program. I got my BFA from Theater VCU at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And during that track, it's a BFA, so it's conservatory style, very, very focused. Our teachers would tell us, like, if you're an actor, you're an actor. We don't want you to direct. Directors don't want to be on set with actors that are also directors. So I got a lot of conflicting advice, but my family growing up as a first generation immigrant have always been creative, persistent, aspirational entrepreneurs. Even just not knowing, my dad's figured it out. God bless my father. He's still with us, but this man, now working in construction, has had so many careers. He did the restaurant business, he drove limos, he, towed and sold cars overseas. This man did everything. The hustle is real to put me through college and put bread on our table so that I could do this now, work in the arts, right? But ultimately, we were told, don't wear many hats, focus on what you want. But for me, coming up, shadowing my father, wearing many hats, figuring it out, I always really have had that resourcefulness. And I did in college. I shadowed all my teachers in directing. I also produced, I did marketing stuff. And in directing, you learn so much about coaching and teaching. And as a young director, the best way to start directing is to teach. So I started to teach kids acting classes. And when I was 18, 19, 20, now my company in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., where I grew up with these programs, is celebrating its 19th year coming on in 2026. And now I'm in LA growing programs in LA. I've been in LA 8 years, New York before that. But to kind of, answer this long question long, I was told not to wear many hats from the beginning, but my family's entrepreneurial spirit really just had me dive into it all. And coming out of it now in 2025, right? That's when we're recording this. Kelly, what's happening is that everyone's expecting you to wear multiple hats. Before we started recording, Kelly, you and I were just talking about how we're figuring out tech and having to do so much. And we're so grateful for all those who help on our team because these days you have to do your own tech. You have to do your own hair, makeup, wardrobe. If you're going to be on camera, everyone has a phone, everyone has a platform, right? But you have to figure out how to use it, do your marketing, use Canva, speak for yourself, book events. I mean, it's a full-time commitment. So you wear many hats, and it's necessary now because if you're an actor, casting wants you to self-tape and to do what you would normally do in a casting room on your own from home these days, right? You have to do your own promotion. You have to put your stuff into film festivals. You're wearing hats now, and everyone's suggesting you wear many hats, and people are applauding content creators, or I like to think the modern Renaissance artist that does do everything, that can edit, that can produce, that can write a little bit, that can collaborate. So, it's been a long journey of being told don't wear many hats and now wearing many hats. And to get right to the last part of this, the burnout part, with that, definitely does come burnout. But I will say the biggest key, and we can go deeper into the burnout together, to avoid it has always been balance. The burnout can come and you can smell it, you can feel it. For me, I start to think, oh, I need to take vitamin C. My throat's starting to feel a little itchy. What happens there is I'm starting to realize I'm physically burning out, or if I mentally feel like I can't think of anything anymore, I need to put my phone away. These are moments where I make sure to unplug and reset so I can continue to wear many hats. And also, in terms of burnout, remember, one of the hats you have to wear is your self-care hat. Right? Especially as an artist, that hat has to be on so that you can reset, you can be grounded. An artist's most powerful performance is a grounded one that's rooted in reality. Like, when you watch your favorite actor and they're just giving you that emotion and it feels so real and raw, they can't get there if they're aloof all over the place or not just connected with their mind, body, spirit, earth, their God, whatever it may be. So that's a long story long for you, Kelly, about kind of just as an intro to me wearing many hats, a little bit about my background, and then avoiding burnout with balance.
Yes, yes, yes. Balance. Key thing there that I think many people forget to try to find some sort of balance. It can always be on, but with no self-care. And that's the recipe for disaster. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you, what was a key thing that got you started in this career path?
Right. So what inspired me with artistry was I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was in Lebanon. I was born in Lebanon, which is in the Middle East. I was raised in the DC, Northern Virginia area since I was 3. Ended up doing New York and now in LA. But getting started initially when I was in Lebanon, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I saw a musical adaptation of Romeo and Juliet on stage that a family member was the star in and a part of, and I had never been to a big show before. And it was, kind of like Broadway style in the Middle East. It was a lot of people watch. There were a lot of people watching, and it was a very big production. And as a kid, I thought it was fun in the audience seeing these people sing and dance on stage, but that's not what got me, Kelly. What got me, Kelly, is after the show, my aunt's husband took me backstage because his sister was the lead, and my world shattered. I was like, this is not real. This door doesn't lead to an actual kitchen. This passageway here doesn't lead to where the story, took place. This is all just, a mirage. It's all a facade, really. And that was fascinating. And the buzz and the tech people and just the magic of it, that was the biggest illusion. I feel like theater is magic because you're creating life on stage. And that stood out to me and was just so interesting. So as a kid, I memorized every word to that musical in Arabic, and I still know it to this day. I speak Arabic fluently. And it got my love for musicals. Here's my musical wall behind me. Includes some movies as well, film and TV and musicals, with some of my favorites that have always been a part of me. But that really was the catalyst going backstage and discovering the magic of what theater is. And since then, doing school plays and musicals and going to school to study film and TV and theater acting, and then being able to dip my toes in casting and producing and directing. And now, having done this for my own company 19 years, as a whole, maybe 25 years, running an independent film company and an acting studio while also acting and directing and producing my work.
Nice. Tell us and elaborate a little bit more about your acting studio.
Sure. So I have two company divisions here. The first one that you've heard a lot about today is Moonlit Wings Productions. That's our program that I mentioned I started when I was 18, 19 years old. I really wanted to teach, to bring arts programming to Northern Virginia and the greater DC area. I grew up in Fairfax County, so that's exactly what we did. I started summer performing arts camps for kids. We started with one, and it was the first one, which was Disney's High School Musical One Act Edition. I collaborated with Disney's Musical Theater International that releases licensing to produce these shows, and we were the DC area premiere, the first ever to do it after the whole craze of High School Musical. If you're around my age or you have kids, you might kind of know that was a big thing T minus 18 years ago. All about Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens' introduction at the time, and now, they've become big stars with many other films under their belt. But they started in that, and our company got to produce that on stage. And now we produce summer camps across over a dozen locations and programs and classes during the school year across schools in Northern Virginia. So you can find us at moonlitwings.org, and it's classes for all ages and camps as well. And like I said, that's in Northern Virginia. I work closely with some of my most beloved instructors there and class and camp directors that help me keep all the programs on the ground running. We have some incredible teachers, all incredible teachers that have so much heart and patience and grace and creativity and love working with the kids. And a lot of these kids have never done drama before. They're kids, right? Some of them it's their first time, but it's a way to just get in touch with their inner creative, voice and to just, open up and to make a friend and to connect words to actions. And it's so much more than just being on stage and presenting. It's really the skill that builds. So that's really our DC program. And now I've been in LA, like I mentioned, about 8 years. And we have Studio for Performing Arts Los Angeles in LA. This LA studio is a bit different. It's while we do programming for kids, it's really geared more for pre-professional and professional development. So what that means is a lot of actors that we work with, their goal is to get an agent or a manager, and that's exactly what we help them do. Or those that already have rep, we help coach them so they can get a little bit more confident when they're in their casting sessions, or connect them to casting directors or film directors or writers or producers to help them network a little more and get seen and get noticed. So there's a lot of programs that we do that continue the acting coaching, but that are for adults and kids in LA, and that's Studio for Performing Arts LA. And you can learn about that at studioforperformingarts.com. So we have something for the East Coast and the West Coast.
Nice, nice, nice. I love that. And could you talk a little bit about how your cultural background and upbringing influenced this creative journey and what you're doing in both locations?
Absolutely. So, my cultural upbringing, Lebanese, Arab American, first generation, I think just really seeing my parents work hard. Every penny they made, they tried to use to put bread on our table or help enrich me and my sister's life, their own life. They really were a picture of the American dream. We were able to buy a single family home, and, in the early 2000s. They now have relocated and moved back to Lebanon and are retiring, my parents. But I really do get a big influence from them and my background, just seeing them work really hard to make it in America. And our programs are very accessible. So I have three words that I like to describe our programs: accessible, universal, and fun. And that's really what I try to do, whether it's for the kids or for the adults in Los Angeles and the kids. The reality of it is we try to have price points for classes that are not breaking the bank. And listen, I get it. There's a lot of people, especially in markets like Los Angeles or DC, that have similar programs, perhaps. We like to boast, especially in DC, that we're one of the first and we've been around forever. So there's, something we're doing right. But I think ultimately it's that we are reading the room and we're making sure it's accessible to all families, not just some families, whether it's scholarship programs we do or just the originally reduced competitive rates for a class that's after school or in the evening. And then beyond that, for me personally, you see these posters again behind me, Kelly. I'm a Broadway boy, grew up loving the arts, grew up loving musicals, fell in love with my first musical, still very much in the scene in terms of asking my younger cousins, what do you listen to these days? What's always on your radio? Surveying the room, and my parents, because all of our material is updated to what's going on, right now in pop culture. What's for my kids, if there's certain things they're watching, especially the craze right now, for example, of K-pop Demon Hunters, we're going to lean into that a little bit. That's where the industry's kind of leaning. For my adults, film, TV, what's on right now? What's it look like? What's the kind of style and writing that's really in? Especially based on my type of actor, I want them to lean into that. So my background has really allowed me to flex and be creative so that I can bring something. That's why we have the word universal, something that all artists, young and old, can work with. And then I think the fun, Kelly, explains itself. Okay. We just want to keep it light and fun. This is acting, not heart surgery. It does mean a lot to a lot of us. At the same token, we want to come to it for what it is.
Nice, nice. Very beautifully said. Very beautifully said. Now, what advice would you give to someone who feels like they've lost their passion or their drive? And how could your program or your coaching actually help them?
If you feel like you've lost your passion or your drive, and it's not the first or last time I would hear this from an artist, they hit a wall, they feel like the odds are not in their favor. A couple things I like to, say to my friends in response to that, or your colleagues coming to me or a client, it's the same advice all around. It's first off, it's that realize that the odds are not in your favor, and not in a pessimistic way, but just in terms of realism, right? If you want to see results that are a little bit more instant, there are other industries than film, TV, than acting, than theater that are going to provide you instant results. A lot of these creative fields, they take time. They take time to network relationships and for the right opportunities to align. So the main thing that I encourage, it's really a two-parter here. Part one is take a break. It doesn't have to be so finite that you have to quit. I've heard this from one of my dear friends who has a master's in acting, who's been on shows, this, that, and the third, but had a bit of a lull, hit a wall, and just wanted out. And I said, but you've worked so hard. You're farther than many people. Some people wish they could be in your shoes. Why don't you just take a break? Come back when you're ready. You're not ready in a month? Take another. You're not ready then? Take another. And if ultimately you're just never ready or other things develop, that's life. That's part of, what you're getting yourself into. But ultimately, you're giving your chance the opportunity to come back instead of closing and locking and bolting the door. And this person did come back and they've been even more successful since. And I'm so happy they took a break. So that's one thing. And then the other thing beyond taking a break is this, and it goes along with taking a break too, and you'll understand this. It's one word, Kelly. You've heard it in any profession, anyone trying to make their dream, money, right? Gosh, it's the root of all evil, but it can make you comfortable, this, that, and the third. At the end of the night, I say this to all my artists, it becomes a lottery game till you really make it. You'll get in, you'll book this, that, and the third. But for you to really hit a home run, be the next Jennifer Lopez, Denzel Washington, whatever, you guys, that's a very much a 1% thing. So I'm not saying don't believe in it or work towards it. Why not you? If not you, who? At the same token, so you're not so desperate trying to be an artist, so desperate for the role, because desperation is in a low vibration. It leads to burnout. You don't want that. So you're not doing your artistry in a desperate fashion. You need to have some money in the bank, some pushing for the cushion. Okay. And that means I tell all my artists this, there's no shame. Be humbled in doing any job that'll pay you that you're comfortable with. Save, save, save. You need it for your headshots. You need it to travel to jobs that you'll book that won't pay your travel, but they pay a decent day rate and you need the footage. You need the experience, so you build from there. So really, again, take a break if you need a break. Continue to save money, do whatever work you need to. And you don't need to tell people about those jobs. You can build the brand and the image that your acting is what you're here doing, and that's who you are. And if you have two, three, four other side hustles, you do deliveries, you babysit, you dog sit, you work at a, certain store, there's, no shame in it. You're a server. Actors have so many different types of jobs. A lot of them end up being entrepreneurs and opening businesses and using that with their leadership skills. But to some people, that's daunting. So you don't have to do that either. But I think in the most simple way, save money so you're not desperate for the roles that you're auditioning for, and you can approach your creativity in a manner that's a little bit more laid back so you can really dig deep and take a break when you need it.
Very well said. Very well said. So, Walid, what do you think is the biggest thing you would go back and tell your younger self about reaching your goals, building this big career that you've built? What would you tell your younger self in respects to that?
Absolutely. So, my younger self trying to really focus on acting and directing, I would just say don't wait to create your own content. Network and meet with filmmakers, someone with a camera. Usually now we have cameras on our phones that are as good as cameras professionals are using, right? So now it's really a different time, but create the content. That's what I would really say. I'd say don't wait to get your demo reel. What holds a lot of actors back is they don't have any bookings to start to show their acting skills to get more. So you have to do a student film or two, do a friend's project, pay for some footage from a company that produces demo reels. For you directing, to get in as a director, people want to see your directing samples. But if you haven't done a, program where you've achieved that in school or gotten that on your own or funded it, you're going to have to build that on your own. Team up with a project, do a 48-hour film festival, competition. A lot of those are a great way to meet people. Go to other film festivals, look up your local playhouse community center, look up your state's film commission. But I would just tell my younger self, just create the projects you want to create and continue to find mentors you look up to and ask them if you can shadow them. I think that's a big thing. And I've done a lot of these things from when I was young, but not at the extent that I wish I really understood it as something that can add value to my life in the future.
Yes. And what's next for you, Walid? Any exciting projects? or goals you're working towards? Or
Yes. So right now I have a film in the film festival circuit called Darn It, Darla. Darn It, Darla is a dark comedy about a former child star whose manager spins shams to put her back in the spotlight at no matter the cost. So it's kind of giving The Weeknd from The Idol, if you saw that with Lily Rose Depp in The Weeknd, kind of that sort of idea meets Entourage. All right. It's that sort of vibe, dark comedy, and it's a short. We've screened at about a dozen festivals so far this year and a couple more to come. And I've been just so fortunate and blessed. Thank God. We've won some great awards representing the film. And it's not just about winning an award, it's about the idea that these films are getting the buzz because the conversations are important. And in Darn It, Darla, it's about how far will you go to get what you want? And, is it at the cost of good or evil? And all the layers underneath that story are about being true to your art, are about how to deal with burnout. The manager's pushing her so hard so she can get any role because he wants her working at no matter the cost. Similar to these themes we're talking about. So that project is in the festival circuit right now. You can learn more about it at darnitdarla.com. And then what's right now brewing, I've had a couple write-ups about it. You can check us out on Instagram for more info, is a feature film that I wrote with my co-partner Jimmy Monak, and we're working on getting this funded and produced hopefully within the next year to kick off pre-production. The feature's called Crazy Rich Arabs. You got it. Crazy Rich Arabs is a feature film rom-com about two twin brothers from the Middle East that meet after being separated at birth and are now adults, and they switch places and they discover each parent and their very different lifestyles and customs. And it highlights, a lot about the Middle East, but it also shows you one of the twins who's more or less Americanized, so you still get kind of a Western view. It's really given Crazy Rich Asians, right? That's really a lot of the inspiration, but with a whole new twist, with a whole new cast and culture on Middle Eastern lifestyle. So that's brewing. And then, of course, there's so much at the studio. Every single season, we have new classes for adults. We have new boot camp programs and showcases for adults and actors with agents and casting in LA. And then for kids, also in LA and in Virginia, something new every season.
nice. And tell us again how they can find out about those classes and coaching.
Absolutely. So if you're in Northern Virginia or Washington, D.C., you can visit moonlitwings.org, spelled Moonlit, like it's lit fam, moonlitwings.org. And then if you're in LA or want to come visit LA and try some of our programs, it's a great way for an actor to see if the city's right for you. It is, Hollywood after all. You can find us at studioforperformingarts.com. And then you can find me personally at walidchaya.com as well as on Instagram at walid.chaya. I love to connect. We post a lot about our programs, very active with answering questions on social media, or if you email our studio, myself or one of our team would love to be in touch. So if you're looking to elevate your acting career, whether you want an online one-on-one coaching with me, or you want to come to a free webinar, we do a lot of free online events. We also throw parties in LA as well. If you're here in person, there's something for everyone. Find us online, look at what's coming up, and reach out. We'd love to connect.
Well, there you have it, guys. Walid Chaya. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And this is another great episode of Behind the Spotlight. And please follow, like, and subscribe to Walid's social medias and check him out if you need some help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Walid.
Bye bye.